So if you've followed the world of UFOs, you've definitely heard of Dr. Stephen Greer. He's been a major player in the disclosure movement for decades, but his latest claim, it's a whole different level. We're not talking about a grainy video or another whistleblower testimony. We're talking about a physical object he calls the Bugosphere, an artifact he says has just woken up and is carrying a pretty serious warning for all of us.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It's a wild question, right? But it's the heart of what we're digging into today. Imagine an object that's been dormant since the end of the last ice age suddenly coming to life. What could that possibly mean? And more importantly, what is it trying to tell us?
All right, let's start with the object itself, the ancient sphere. It's nicknamed the Bugosphere and was reportedly discovered down in Colombia. Now, according to Dr. Greer, this thing isn't just a weird rock or some piece of space junk. He believes it's a piece of truly impossible technology.
So, first question, how old is it? Well, you can't carbon date metal, so Greer's team did something pretty clever. They apparently extracted this resin-like material from these tiny little ports around the sphere's middle. They sent that sample to a lab at the University of Georgia, and the result that came back? 12,560 years old. That puts its creation right at the tail end of the last ice age.
Okay, but the material it's made of, that's where things get really weird. The analysis shows it's almost pure aluminum. The thing is, the smelting process to get aluminum that pure wasn't even invented until 1876. On top of that, it has trace amounts of elements like neodymium, which we didn't even discover until the late 1800s. The claim here is that the alloy, the whole shebang, doesn't match anything we know how to make on Earth.
And what can it do? Well, the list of reported capabilities is just extraordinary. It's said to fly without making a sound, using something Greer calls electrogravitic propulsion, basically anti-gravity. It also supposedly demonstrated what's called mass cancellation. Get this, its weight apparently changed from just 2 kilos while it was active to over 10 kilos after it was shut down. Add in the fact that it's perfectly seamless and operates without a pilot, and you've got a true anomaly. And maybe the most important part, it's not the only one. There are reportedly 4 other identical spheres that have just been activated.
So yeah, the object itself is a massive puzzle. But what about that warning? Because etched all over the sphere are these symbols that, according to Greer, hold a message that's been waiting over 12,000 years to be heard.
You're probably asking, okay, how in the world do you translate a 12,000-year-old language? Well, Greer claims that 2 completely independent teams of linguistics experts looked at the symbols, and both, he says, came to the same conclusion. It's a form of Proto-Sanskrit, one of the oldest known languages on the entire planet.
And the message they translated? It's not a friendly hello. Not at all. Greer calls it a 3-bell warning. It's basically a prophecy of a massive cataclysm. We're talking atomic disasters, huge solar flares, where the final outcome, whether we make it or not, depends entirely on the choices that we, humanity, make right now.
So why this terrifying warning? And why now? Well, this is where Greer's whole narrative takes a really sharp turn. We go from an ancient, mysterious artifact to a sprawling, modern-day conspiracy. He argues that the biggest danger we face isn't coming from outer space, it's from a secret war being fought by a hidden group of humans right here on Earth.
And Greer does not mince words when he talks about this group. He calls it a transnational criminal organization, one so big and powerful it operates outside of any government's control. He says it would make the mob look like, well, choir boys. This group, he claims, is controlling secret technology and pulling the strings of global events.
And here's maybe the most critical piece of his whole theory. He claims that when you see a UFO, there's an 80% chance you're not looking at something extraterrestrial. He alleges that what you're actually seeing is a man-made craft from this secret group's hidden fleet, built using technology they've kept from the rest of the world for decades.
So how do they pull this off? Well, according to Greer, they have a playbook. Step 1, suppress any real evidence of peaceful ET contact. Step 2, use their own secret fleet to stage events. Things like alien abductions? He says that's just psychological warfare run by this group to make us afraid. And finally, if anyone gets too close to the truth, they silence them permanently.
This all leads up to what Greer calls the ultimate psychological operation, or PSYOP. The goal is to invent an enemy so terrifying, so powerful, that all of humanity would willingly give up its freedom just to feel safe. And what's the perfect enemy? An alien one.
So what's the end game of all this fear? According to Greer, it's the creation of a single, all-powerful, totalitarian world government. a military superstate that's justified by this manufactured threat from the stars. A world that's united, sure, but united by fear of an enemy that was never even real.
So what you end up with are two completely opposite stories. On one hand, you have the narrative that says, hey, there could be hostile aliens out there, and we need to weaponize space to defend ourselves. And then you have Greer's claim, which is that the entire threat is a fake, an elaborate production created by humans for the sole purpose of total control.
To back all this up, Greer often points to this alleged quote from the famous rocket scientist Wernher von Braun. The story goes that way back in the 70s, von Braun warned that a faked alien threat would eventually be used as the final card to scare the world into accepting a military dictatorship.
Okay, so if the threat isn't real, if the whole narrative is a lie, then what are we supposed to do? Well, Greer says humanity is standing at a major crossroads, and we have to choose a completely different path forward.
In Greer's view of reality, the truth is this. Actual extraterrestrial civilizations are peaceful. They're observers, not invaders. So our job, as he sees it, is to see through all the fear-mongering and actively choose peace instead. He actually encourages people to become ambassadors to the universe and to initiate contact based on respect.
And that's really what it all comes down to in the end. It leaves us with this huge question. Is the Bugosphere a genuine 12,000-year-old warning sent to help us? A catalyst for a new age of consciousness? Or are these claims just part of another, very different kind of carefully constructed narrative? That's something you'll have to decide for yourself.